What's going on, guys? TJ the Big Sports Guy here. Today we are going to be talking about some changes that will be happening to this very YouTube channel. But we are going to talk about some sports card shows and some hobby news and things that just happened around us here in North Carolina. All right, so just for starters, from now on, all of the videos that you are going to see on this channel on Mondays are going to be all about sports cards. We are going to cover news, shows, and gossip from the hobby. So if you like everything sports cards, your videos are now going to be on Monday. And then the rest of the week, we are going to change things up. We're going to be doing some more sports-based content, but not necessarily sports cards in general. We're going to be looking at some of the matchups every week from the NFL, the NCAA, a little bit of the NHL since I'm a big hockey fan. Probably a little bit of basketball, but not a lot. And then once the MLB season kicks off, we will be looking at baseball games as well. We're going to look at the lines, the point spreads, any good bets, things like that. Not going to be giving investment or betting advice on this channel like some other channels do, but we are going to be just talking about those things. I want to get into some regular sports topics. I am the big sports guy, not just the sports card guy. I've slowed down a little bit. I do have the PC collection here behind me. Just added a new Tom Brady relic with a field goal Super Bowl post. Really like those. We now have a raw copy, a BGS 9.5, and a PSA 9. Super excited to have those. So I'm still going to stay in the hobby. I'm still going to talk about sports cards. I'm going to talk about the shows that are happening here local to kind of North and South Carolina. So if any of you guys are in the area, that will apply to you. For anyone else, I may try to venture out and talk about some of the bigger card shows as well. I know they've got some bigger ones in cities like Dallas, Nashville, and then obviously the national card show that happens once a year. So we will cover those things as well. So there are actually a few things that I want to talk about today, but before we jump into that, I will give a shout out to Capital Sports Cards and also Winged Wheel Card Collector on Instagram. If you guys don't follow them, you should. A couple of hockey guys or buddies of mine that went to the Raleigh card show that just happened this weekend. So it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show. Was planning to get over there, but unfortunately was not able to make it. Did get a round of golf in on Saturday instead. But they gave me some good feedback about this show. If you're not familiar, normally this show in Raleigh, North Carolina takes place in a building called the Kerr Scott Building. It's kind of a smaller-ish, I guess not really a smaller venue, kind of a mid-sized venue, if you will, with about 200 tables, I believe it is. And sometimes the show will be mixed with sports cards and also like toys and games and things like that. They did actually change the venue this time to an arena that's right there. It's kind of on like a fairgrounds campus, so there are multiple buildings. They moved it into an arena and then had, I believe, 500 tables this weekend. So it was a rather large show. Obviously, being 3 days, it's going to be a bigger show also. I did talk to those guys. They focus primarily on hockey. I'm a hockey fan as well. They said there were a lot more tables with hockey at this show, so that was awesome for them. They were able to pick up some cool things that they liked. Did get some feedback from the show. Sounds like it was pretty successful. Does sound like a lot of the dealers were pretty fair on their prices and were not like crazy overpriced, which is something that I'm always worried about now that we're kind of post-COVID hobby. So it's nice to hear that a lot of the people are fairly reasonable on their prices, and it sounds like it was a pretty successful show. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you exactly what the attendance was or kind of what the vibe was in there. But I am planning on going to another show that's coming up this next weekend in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So if you guys are anywhere in the area, maybe stop out to that. I believe it's a Friday, Saturday show, which is the 15th and 16th. This one is usually in, and I believe it's in the same place, but I'll have to double check this, in the outside of like an old shopping mall. There's like a Sears or a JCPenney or something that went out of business. It's hosted in there, so decent size inside of a department store, fair number of tables and all that. I won't be setting up or anything, just kind of going to see what it's all about. It's been a little while since I've been to a show. All right, a few more things that I did want to talk about. I have noticed lately that a lot of things are changing in the hobby. I have seen a bunch of Tom Brady one-of-one autos selling for under $10,000 now. Several of them actually have sold on eBay lately in the $2,500 to $4,000 range. I think that is a huge red flag to be thrown up for anyone that's still paying $2,000 or more for a prospect or a rookie. It's almost guaranteeing that a long-term negative return on investment for those young players if you're a buyer of those specific cards. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is I've seen a lot of cards for sale recently, either on eBay, Facebook groups, or other online platforms where there are one-of-ones that are just kind of base one of ones, whether it's out of a Topps Chrome update, Bowman Chrome, etc., of all of these different prospects. And when you're buying prospects, even if they become the all-time greatest player in their sport, they will not be worth as much as they are right now. And that brings us to the hype factor when valuing cards. Hype can artificially inflate prices to extreme heights that make zero sense, part of which we just saw obviously from the COVID pandemic when everyone kind of got back into the hobby and card prices just skyrocketed. You also see hype around products when they release, similar to what I just talked about with Topps Chrome Update, Topps Chrome Sapphire, and all these different products that are dropping. As soon as a product drops, if you pull a card from those products, you want to get them online, get them listed, and get them sold as soon as possible, within a day or less if you can, so that you're the first person to sell those cards, because there is an immediate sharp drop-off in prices. I will tell you that I spent some time ripping various products, mostly baseball, but also did like some Bowman Chrome U for both football and basketball, chasing the Victor Wembanyama autos. And then I'm a Michigan fan, so I did the Bowman Chrome U football to try to get J.J. McCarthy and a couple other players there, maybe Blake Corum. But those cards, as soon as you rip them, if you hang on to those for more than a week or so after the product has released, there are so many of those cards that get flooded into the market because there are less people now that are actually truly collecting those cards and just looking to get a return, that they are just flooding the market. They're putting every single card that they rip from a box to try to recoup some of the money that they spent on the product. So they are just absolutely flooding eBay and Facebook with some of these cards. So the prices just drop and drop and drop. So if you're the first person to sell, you are going to pretty much guarantee that you're going to get the most for your card versus all of the other ones that get pulled. Another thing too is that cards are at two very far apart extremes right now. You've got the guys that cannot let go of 2020 and that artificial boom that we saw and want $5,000 for a basic one-of-one patch card that's not really that special, and honestly a lot of times they're not even game used. Or the guys who are reasonable, who are selling one-of-ones of top stars for anywhere from $250 to $500, which seems a lot more realistic. I've seen in some Facebook groups lately people posting one-of-ones of kind of middle-of-the-road type guys, starting quarterbacks, maybe a Dak Prescott or other guys, for that $250 to $500 range. And then you've got people that are holding on to some people that were a prospect who have kind of had enough time now to where if they were going to be a superstar, they already would have evolved, right? And it's the guys that we've talked about, like a Zion Williamson, a Ja Morant. From football, you could look at like a Trevor Lawrence, even a Justin Herbert or a Joe Burrow. I mean, those guys are now, it's 2023 going on 2024. They were part of the 2020 draft class. They've had enough time to get established as a really good young rookie quarterback, but still don't have any Super Bowls to their name. So the longer that goes on, those price values are really just going to keep coming down, and they're going to be even more realistic for people who actually like those players and are collecting the cards, not the guys who are getting into this to rip a bunch of boxes or get into a bunch of breaks to hit that one-of-one that they can sell for 10 or 15 grand like we saw a couple of years ago. Now, the one thing that I will say, based on the feedback that I just got about that show that took place over in Raleigh, is hopefully we are closer to one end of the spectrum as opposed to the other, and hopefully that's the more realistic dealers and vendors who are willing to work with you on price and understand that what happened a couple of years ago was an anomaly and it's not going to happen again. That was a once-in-a-lifetime event where a hobby that had gotten pretty stagnant got an influx of people and money just based on the timing and the events that took place to re-infuse it with a whole bunch of capital and a whole bunch of cards and not a lot of knowledge around the actual hobby that caused prices to be somewhere that they never should have been. And honestly, a lot of people out there, I hate to admit it, but probably a lot of the good people, not the people who were just in flipping cards, because they were the ones that were turning product over very quickly, but the actual collectors were having to pay those prices. They're the ones that are actually going to end up getting crushed by what took place in the hobby. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you haven't done this already, please like the video, drop a comment below to let me know what you thought, and subscribe to the channel. Again, we are going to be rolling out a new cadence for the channel, so if you're into sports card specific content, that's going to be put out in videos on Monday with the latest news, gossip, and shows. I want to update you guys on what the happenings are in the sports card world. Tuesday through Friday are going to be left open for a little bit of golf content later in the week. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are probably going to be more sports betting and looking at potential matchups across all of the major professional sports. And then Thursday, not really sure exactly what we're going to do there, but we are going to find something to fill in, maybe a partial podcast with some guests that we have on as well. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will catch you next time.